Lots of things are happening right now at EGYM. We are 14 years old as a business. At the beginning, everything is a bit more difficult to get funded and to get going, especially if you have such a big vision for the gym industry that we have. But now, basically, we have, I think, reached a little bit more this point of escape velocity and can just move forward so much faster. Sometimes I tell my co-founder, Florian, how dumb we must have been 14 years ago, because right now, as we almost double the business every year, we basically achieve in 1 year what took us 13 years to do before.
Welcome back to the Fitt Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Veneri. Today I'm joined by Philipp Roesch-Schlanderer, co-founder and CEO of EGYM. In this episode, we discuss the company's recent $200 million funding round. Philipp shares insights on EGYM's vertical integration strategy, its growing corporate wellness business, and leveraging AI to personalize workouts. Plus, we talk about EGYM's US expansion and transforming healthcare through exercise. Let's get into it. Before we get into the episode, I want to tell you about a new service we launched. Every business leader knows hiring is hard. That's why we created Fitt Talent. It's a specialized recruitment firm helping health, fitness, and wellness companies hire world-class talent. We tap the Fitt Insider community and our broader network to place high performers in impactful roles. If you're planning your next hire, visit talent.fitt.co to learn more about our recruiting services and get started today. Hi, Philipp. Welcome back to Fitt Insider this time. Thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me, and great to be back.
Yeah, this is, I was looking back at our last conversation, which was about a year ago. At that time, EGYM had a number of announcements, had recently raised a round of funding. We're expanding kind of on all fronts. Obviously, we've kept up with you and the team since then, but now most recently, I feel like it's in some ways kind of deja vu, announcing a new round of funding on the heels of a couple acquisitions and continued expansion. It's just like, what is the kind of state at EGYM? How did this funding round come together? And yeah, what should we know about?
Yeah, first of all, I think indeed lots of things are happening right now at EGYM. We are 14 years old as a business. At the beginning, everything is a bit more difficult to get funded and to get going, especially if you have such a big vision for the gym industry that we have. But now, basically, we have, I think, reached a little bit more this point of escape velocity and can just move forward so much faster. Sometimes I tell my co-founder, Florian, how dumb we must have been 14 years ago, because right now, as we almost double the business every year, we basically achieve in 1 year what took us 13 years to do before. But the truth is, we just had to kind of really develop the technology, and also the market is now much more ready for us. And last year, when we did the financing round with Affinity Partners, a Miami-based fund, we reached, for me as a founder, a very important moment, because with that round of financing, we were able as a company to be debt-free, like have a significant two-digit amount on the bank account. We were growing fast and we were profitable. And so I knew that we will never have to go back to investors to get their money in order to survive. So for us now, really the time had come to think about who are really the best investors in the world for us, as us being ambitious. I've always admired, for example, Jeff Bezos, who was really great in communicating, even as a public company, to the investor world, in a way that he was able to get the right investors investing into Amazon. In his case, it was investors that really wanted him to take big risks, to keep growing fast. And when you compare now his shareholder base with, for example, AT&T, those guys don't want to have them taking any risk. They just want to have their dividends paid, right? And so you really have to, as a founder or CEO, really think about who are the perfect shareholders for my mission and my vision and my business. And so I was thinking, okay, now that I don't need investors for their money anymore, now I need to find the right investors. And I ended up writing an email to my board, and I outlined 2 or 3 weeks after the funding, I really thought a lot about just who could be the best investors in the world for us. And I thought about it in two ways. We are a fitness technology company. So who's the best fitness investor in the world for us? And then technology, who's the best technology investor in the world for us? And my research basically led me to two funds. The best fitness investor in the world, L. Catterton, a Connecticut-based investment firm. They are the largest consumer growth investor in the world, largest fitness investor in the world. And I started building a relationship with them. And on the technology angle, I had on position number one, a firm called Meritech Capital. They are a Palo Alto-based growth investor. Actually, their story is that Sequoia and Excel Partners, the two top VCs, came together and pitched to their LPs that they need someone who invests in their best investments. And that's kind of how Meritech Capital was created. And they were, for example, investors in Facebook, Salesforce.com, Snowflake, Datadog, like lots of incredible software successes. And I started building relationships with both of these firms with the idea, hopefully, maybe we have a chance that one of the two may invest into EGYM over the next 5 years. And then it turned out that both basically after speaking to them for 6 months wanted to invest immediately. At the same time, we had zero shareholders that wanted to sell. So we just did another capital increase and had them invest $200 million on north of $1 billion valuation. And that's now new money that we haven't planned for, that we now can think about how we spend this money in the best possible way.
Yeah, it's an incredible story and just goes to kind of the founder and CEO, like the forward-looking planning, building never stops. You sat down and wrote this letter to your board just after closing a round of funding, and yes, it was getting you to a point of kind of stability and really building that foundation, but already kind of saying, hey, best case scenario, what would we do if we could kind of pick and choose those investors? In some ways, was it building that relationship, having those conversations? Obviously, Al Catterton has the, as you said, fitness kind of expertise. You don't need to pitch them on that. You don't need to explain them on that. And the inverse on the other side, was it kind of like two different paths and kind of building those narratives as you built those relationships? Just maybe kind of take us inside that, like what goes into those pitches and how were you able to build those relationships in a way where it came together kind of, as you imagined?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting to see that in both cases, they were looking a little bit at different things. Al Kettert was just really, to me, so amazing to present for the first time in my life to an investor that completely gets it, that completely understands our industry, that completely understands how to run gyms because they own gyms, right? And they know how to sell to gyms because they own gym vendors. They have a huge belief into the broader sector and how it develops towards longevity. They have supplement companies like Thorne Health and many other companies in their portfolio. And it was wonderful to discuss with them how we believe we will be able to influence in a positive way how people work out inside gyms. A company like Meritech Capital, they are very much focused on very kind of deep down unit economics and cohort development, because their job always is to really predict kind of a incredibly big future based on something that is relatively small today. But they also had incredibly positive experiences. For example, one of their late investments from a few years ago is Lyra Health. They're basically, I think Forbes 500 are all customers of Lyra Health and mental health software for their employees. So they had like also an idea how well our sector is developing. It was interesting. There's like two firms with very different approaches, but kind of luckily conclude both that they want to back us.
Yeah. Now, as you think about, strategic priorities, continuing to deploy this capital, not only how EGYM sees this space and what you want to bring to fruition, but also the opportunities in this space. One that we previously talked about, I know that was already on your roadmap, is certainly bridging into corporate wellness, connecting this ecosystem in a way that really delivers health outcomes and quantifies them. Certainly moving in the direction of healthcare and really incentivizing and rewarding exercise for all the parties involved, the gym operators, the end users, exercisers, the employers, the healthcare system. Certainly part of that push is entering the US on the heels of kind of two acquisitions, one in Europe, one in the US. So yeah, what's the state of the Wellpass business, corporate wellness entering the US, and how are you thinking about how that ladders up to the rest of the ecosystem?
Yeah, indeed. Like typically the way how we, enter new markets is first we bring our gym tech, how we call it, solutions, so our connected hardware and our software into gyms. And then step two is we launch EGYM Wellpass. We are now really big in Europe, and we're now kind of launching on the heels of the acquisition of Fitt in the United States, also EGYM Wellpass in the US. And I fundamentally believe that the gym industry deserves to be way bigger than what it is today. Just no one was ever able to really prove it and monetize the health impact our industry delivers. There's lots of positive things coming together when you think about Peter Attia and Huberman Labs and all these people basically explaining to a mass market audience that strength training is not just something for you if you want to look like Arnie, but actually strength training has a lot of positive impact on your longevity, and even beyond just kind of the physical muscle building um, element, but even the positive impact on your neurological development and other things. It's just so incredible how beneficial it is to do strength training. And like there's now more and more in mass market and awareness here, and somebody just needs to really connect the gym to the healthcare market. And we believe that the best way to do that is kind of you start selling an employee benefit, kind of getting your foot in the door, but then keep developing this further and start to eat into money pockets that are right now spent on painkillers and massages and oftentimes unnecessary surgeries, insulinum, and all these things that basically don't solve the problem. They just treat the symptoms. While we have the ability as the gym industry to actually really make sure that somebody never develops towards a chronic condition, or with regard to, for example, back pain, which is within the musculoskeletal diseases the biggest category, we are able to heal people for forever. And I had the other day an interview with someone from a big news outlet here in the United States, and he asked me like, what is the kind of end vision that you have? And I asked him back like, do you know somebody who ever had back pain and they got rid of it completely? And he said like, yeah, that's me. And I asked him, how did you do this? And he said like, I did strength training, I lengthened my muscles, and I got rid of my muscle imbalances. I'm like, yeah, great. That's perfect. And do you know people that have not gotten rid of their back pain? He's like, oh yeah, I know a few of them. And I asked him, okay, and what do they do about back pain? And he was like, well, whenever they have back pain, they take painkillers, and then if it's really bad, they get a physical therapy treatment prescribed, where people typically get some massages and some, little mobilization. And so I said, like, you see, and exactly as you described it, these kind of things cost a lot of money, what your friends do, and it never solves the problem for them. And what we want to do is enable the gym that basically people, when they have back pain, they will be sent to the gym. They will have a specific structured strength training, yoga or flexibility workouts, and things to fix their muscle imbalances. And we have a very high chance that we solve back pain for a lot of people. And that's just one example, right? We can go on with diabetes and other things. And so that's kind of where we like that really excites me massively. I know so many people in the gym industry, and the gym industry is a young industry. I hear a lot of times from the outside that the gym industry may be less professionalized than other industries because we're just so young. But what I always tell them is, what kind of keeps me so excited about the gym industry, and I do this now for 14 years. I work really long hours. The reason why I'm so excited about it is because people that work in this industry are really passionate about what they do. And so, like, for me to maybe be a little bit that tide that lifts all boats is something really rewarding for me because I really care for the people in our industry. And so that excites me. And that's why we have this vertical integration of EGYM Wellpass and EGYM Gym Tech. And EGYM Gym Tech really then also including not only our own connected hardware and software, but making space that all the other fitness vendors integrate into our cloud platform, that they can also keep improving the things they have been doing for now 50 years or so, but everything integrated into one platform so that users get a consistent experience, get a full data reporting, and so on and so on. And then we connect this by an employee benefit to the employers that over the long term or midterm, hopefully, will not only spend money for the gym as a benefit. This is what we do today. But what we do tomorrow is, hey, why don't you give us a little bit of the money you're spending right now on repair into a little bit more of prevention? And I think that's the single greatest growth opportunity for the gym industry. And we are really excited as EGYM to be a small part of it.
In so many ways, like you're building what would be multiple different businesses that people spend entire careers trying to do and operationalize, and you're really bringing all these pieces together. Part of that certainly is the ability to vertically integrate, to track and quantify and really show that you're delivering results. At the same time, there's no shortage of companies that now are kind of fitness aggregators, corporate wellness aggregators that are showing people are logging in, they're engaging with it, they're getting some type of employer benefit, healthcare benefit to subsidize this. And on the other side, you're saying, no, we're actually physically going to show the results in the gym, have people engage with it. How do you think about where eGym strategy and Wellpass differs and can really be the one that bridges that gap? Because there historically have been, the way that corporate wellness is kind of structured is you're paying in hopes that people modify their behavior and maybe they engage with an app and a program, or even if it's on site, maybe they get a flu shot, maybe they get a health screening, maybe they don't. So thinking about this strategy and going this route of saying, no, it has to be vertically integrated, maybe just expand on that a little bit more. It's certainly more challenging, but potentially, more rewarding and actually being the one that can make the leap.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I sometimes feel like, with this giant, like because we vertically integrate so deeply, we are like this giant ocean liner that kind of moves very slowly from, for example, expanding into new geographies. But basically, whenever we enter then successfully, we have like a really differentiated offering. And the fitness industry, one part of it, part of the truth also is that we were really good in selling, which is because we're probably so passionate people. But what we found sometimes is then that we would make business models based on no-shows or something. That's, by the way, right now, I think in the fitness industry, way less relevant than years ago. But unfortunately, still the mass market believes this is an important truth about the fitness industry. When you vertically integrated as us, you have every stakeholder in mind, and you are basically, we have more control over the experience, which makes it easier for eGym Wellpass based on an eGym gym tech experience to deliver like something really meaningful for these employees and these employers. But also, I would say from all the aggregators, like I would think no one appreciates the gym operators more than us, because they're also not only dear eGym Wellpass partners, but they're also eGym customers from the eGym gym tech side, right? And we work with them together to solve their operational problems, their marketing challenges, and other things. In the aggregation space, you saw oftentimes that, again, in the early days, the secret of success was basically, how can I sell to people that then don't show up? And that's my margin, right? And I think because we're so vertically integrated, we can deliver the most value because we have the most data, we have the most grip on the experience, and so on and on. We really care for the gym operators, and so that allows us to basically add more value, but we can definitely scale less fast than companies that are less deeply integrated marketing platform, let's say it this way. But I see now also my competitors are doing a great job in thinking about how can they expand their offering into new worlds and new places and kind of create a stickiness there. We have the gym in our name. And for us, really, the gym basically is the solution for everything. And so we really double down on the gym. And, maybe one last point why I'm so bullish about the gym is when you think about the cost for chronic conditions in the largest market in the world, healthcare, these are not elite athletes that deal with these kind of diseases. They're quite the opposite of people. And What I have learned is that strength training is the solution number one for most of the issues. And strength training, if you're not an experienced gym rat, basically, if you're really experienced in strength training, almost like a TRX strap in your home is good enough. But if you're not experienced, you need to go to a place where you have, for example, selectorized strength machines, guided motion, where you can really go in a very safe way with high weights. And so the chances that now these less experienced people would, invest into 15 different strength machines in their home is very unlikely. And so I believe the gym has a total right to have a huge impact here because it's a shared economy. It's relatively cheap for having access to so many fitness machines. It's typically very close to where you live. And so I'm super excited about the gym. Of course, in the meantime, we've developed like great tools also for very experienced users. To name, for example, our EGYM Genius, our AI solution is definitely also exciting for like top-notch athletes. But still, I think the reason why the gym will conquer this biggest market in the world and create some sustainability here is because the gym is the perfect place also for people working out that have not enough experience to just, work out on a TRX strap at home.
Yeah, it's interesting. Earlier on, you mentioned, well, a couple of things. One, you've been at it 14 years. So, already building down this path and kind of committed to the vision. But then at the same time, with the shift to health span, not just physique or aesthetics and weight loss, all those things, longevity, Huberman, Atia, that entering the mainstream, while at the same time, the shift in how people think about strength training, it being central to this movement, but also being one of the things that has the highest barrier to entry. Like there's, to your point, so much friction. You need the
Yeah.
education, you need the equipment, you need the programming, and even figuring out how to automate, infuse technology to some of those parts and do it at home. Or, I have a home gym, but I've been training for 20 years, almost my entire life, and still go to a gym. So that it's almost as if you couldn't have predicted that convergence of trends or maybe you did, that lends itself so well to what eGym does and how you can continue to build on that, foundation.
I think some parts were really luck. Some parts were good analysis. So when I founded eGym because the gym didn't work for me, and so I was someone who didn't really know the gym industry well. And at the time when I founded eGym, the top two training goals were weight loss number one, and to my surprise, muscle skeletal disease is number two. Like it wasn't gaining muscle. In hindsight, quite interesting. And so kind of based on those two training goals, I asked medical experts because I need to get started somewhere. What is the number one? If you could only prescribe one thing and one thing only, because I need to start somewhere, what would it be? And all the answers were strength training. And I was really surprised because I thought at the time, if you want to lose weight, you burn the calories on a treadmill. And now these experts told me, if you can just one thing, I would rather have you do strength training and kind of build up this muscle costume that consumes everyday calories, whereas it's this one-off calorie burn. So kind of that's how I got there. So and because then I realized strength training is specifically, as you say, not very inclusive. I was one of these people that basically, did 3 sets for 15 reps of a random training weight with a random training setup. And so, yeah, kind of, I think part of it was luck. So, for example, luck for me was that now the market all of a sudden understands much more about the importance of strength training, and that definitely pushes our company. And that wasn't something predicted, but it's it's what I always believe is true is even if you go through very difficult times, if you believe you're doing the right thing, it may take 14 years, but at some point you will be rewarded for it.
Yeah, when you're trying to transform what is still a young industry and do it in a way where you're vertically integrating, all these disparate parts while also building parts that didn't exist when it did start. Yeah, it's just going to take time. And listen, that if somebody is going to be able to bridge that gap as we keep talking about it into healthcare, it's going to take that type of time and focus, and commitment to that end goal. There's no feasible way to do that in any type of short term route and be successful.
The gym has the right to win. Like I so far, when I asked people what else could, for example, like 1/3 of all healthcare spending in the US is MSK, musculoskeletal diseases. 1/3. So and so far nobody could give me a better answer to prevent those expenses other than going to the gym. I Because like those people that have MSK typically aren't like athletes. Some athletes just kind of work out the wrong way still, because they're so ambitious and then get back pain from it. But typically your MSK patient is just someone who has not done strength training before. And so I think the gym has the right to win. It just needs to be done. It will cost us a lot of time to convince everyone, because the entire healthcare, as you probably also mentioned several times in your podcast, it's actually really sick care, right? But it also makes sense to rather, prevent versus repair, because repair is so expensive. So it makes sense, but you have to change the mindset of so many people. So I'm not expecting overnight success, but that's also not what I need, right? I just need to do the right thing and keep working towards the true north that makes sense.
If we can get everybody to strength train, why wouldn't we get them to do it wherever they are? And if they want to do it at home, all those sorts of things. And there was like a fundamental almost miscalculation, certainly during the pandemic, but still as time continues to go on, that it's not that you're solving what is the result that I'm getting, or can I teach people to do this, or is it a technology problem? It's, can we keep them engaged and accountable and motivated, and
Yeah,
really solving this kind of human problem of, can I get myself to do it? Can I get myself to
yeah,
exercise? And obviously for someone like yourself and me, as I think about how we solve this problem over time, do I want everybody to be physically active and healthy and free of pain and all those sorts of things? Yes, but I don't see another route necessarily, to your point around the gym continuing to have the right to win, is like people going there and having the environment, the education, the instructors, the accountability, all those things that comes with that kind of in-person experience, and certainly that EGYM supports, that is going to keep people accountable to that end goal. And so it's continuing to define and redefine like what that looks like and how we enhance that experience, and yeah, hopefully connect it to those health outcomes in the end.
totally, totally. I it's quite interesting. Another thing where we may just be lucky, as an industry, is what you see is that people work from home. I feel like the world is getting more and more lonely, um, and so all of a sudden, it's not only the gym for many people the only way how they can work out successfully and safe. It's also a place where you can hang out with other people in this more and more lonely world. So that's kind of one of the things that none of us could have predicted. But what you see is that everyone is getting more and more lonely, and so kind of the gym is a wonderful place to meet people that set the same priorities, that want to live healthy and live long and have a good life. So kind of there's new aspects coming towards our industry that make things even better.
Absolutely. There's something I want to call out that you alluded to, but we should probably dig into a little bit. You know, the technology piece and sick care and strength training and health span, all those things, like hitting on so many different trends and buzzwords right now. Another one that people talk about is AI everything, AI powered, AI assistant, AI personalized. You're building the Genius platform. What does that look like? How are you actually utilizing technology and kind of making it actionable for people?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started EGYM, I thought, how can we make sure that everyone can work out safely and effectively? And I was thinking about this gym kind of where a technology-driven personal trainer makes sure you work out safely and effectively. Also, what I couldn't predict at the time is that now AI is basically accessible for everyone, and companies like us specifically. We have these 16,000 gyms that send us all every day tons and tons of data. But what we also found is we have actually a very specific data point that is super crucial, which is like a side effect of working out on each of strength machines is you do a strength test. And if you want to create a workout builder, which is eGym Genius, you need to feed back to the AI, how did that specific workout influence your chest muscle? And your lower back muscle and all these different muscles, because if you would just feed back to the AI the development of your lean muscle mass, then the AI couldn't learn, like, was the pull-up now a good workout for you? Did it stimulate the right muscles or not? Did it stimulate the right growth? Did it fix your muscle imbalances and all these kind of things? And so what we now build with EGYM Genius is an AI workout builder where we would ask you, what's your training goal? And then the trade-off questions: how many times per week do you want to work out, and how many minutes per workout? The gym operators have the ability to upload all their gym inventory on our platform, and all our, cloud partners like Precore, Matrix, Live Fitness, Core and Health, and many, many more, they kind of send us all the data about also they're integrated with their cardio machine, so that's easy for Genius to prescribe the right workout. But also for all their analog strength machines, they kind of fed the data into our EGYM Genius, and we train EGYM Genius on all the dimensions, on all the things, right? So that EGYM Genius would know for you, Joe, the setup on a Matrix Magnum line leg press is maybe 3, and you should be doing 2 times 80 pounds and 12 reps or something. And on the Live Fitness Synergy line leg press, you see position 5, and you should be doing 75 pounds 2 times 12 or something. And so now people go to the gym, and EGYM Genius would tell you, based on all the trade-offs, what you need to do. So for example, if you jog to the gym, EGYM Genius will, and you track it with, for example, Apple Watch, EGYM Genius will know you're already warmed up and can directly prescribe you an actual workout. If you have given EGYM Genius 45 minutes, 45 minutes, based on all the equipment that is in this gym. If you have, for example, said you only want to work out twice a week, and you have been running yesterday and you tracked it, then EGYM Genius will spend all the time in the gym prescribing you flexibility and strength workouts because you've done cardio somewhere else. And so we can really personalize the experience. And what our research shows is that expert users that know exactly what they're doing, still the one thing they dislike about their workout experience is that they have to think constantly about what's my exercise, like what is the right intensity for me, what's the right weight, and all these things. And they could go even to our selectorized strength machines, just do quick strength tests, like 1 second per machine. Yeah, okay, with sitting down, maybe 2 seconds. But basically, even for their functional trainings, EGYM Genius would prescribe the perfect workout, and kind of they don't have to think anymore about it, because that's something that all the gym users have in common. They want to exhaust themselves. They want to have, a really effective workout. They want to feel great afterwards. But ideally, they want to think about something totally different while they work out. And so kind of we can support now from very early beginners to absolute experts, and really add value with like EGYM Genius. And we're very thankful for all the partners that helped us to train our AI model on all the different machines they've ever produced over the past 10 years.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's, way back in the day, I actually started in the health and fitness industry working at the YMCA. And so going around and manually helping people get set up on every piece of equipment and teaching them what it does and count their reps and do all those sorts of things. So certainly the technology in the industry has evolved quite a bit since then. But even as you mentioned, for somebody like me, I have a human coach, but also still pay to access programming and things like that, because I don't want to devote the time and energy and also kind of psych myself out by making my own workouts, which I've done at various points in time. So just
Yeah.
taking that completely, off the table is really nice to help people, get that type of personalization. Maybe a couple more questions as we get towards the end of the conversation, and changing gears slightly. When you think about, we talk about the industry and all the various trends, and since is the gym dead? Are we back? Is it just at home? Okay, now people want to go and work out in person, and we've seen some new kind of concepts emerge and modalities and all those sorts of things, which is super interesting. And I spend the vast majority of my time thinking about and talking to other people about. But one of the things has certainly been this, limited funding flowing to the space, consolidation across the industry, and EGYM in part, having a part to play in that, consolidating other players. But how do you think about what's happening in the landscape, maybe what other operators should have top of mind, and how you've been able to navigate it and kind of one of the only companies this year that I remember certainly raising hundreds of millions of dollars in this type of environment.
As the fitness industry is young, in the hype cycle of 2020, 2021, like there was like an insane amount of money going into home fitness. And I haven't done the math, but basically, if I had to guesstimate, I would say 90% of this money was a write-off. Um, and so, of course, like that gives now investors a pause and rather like not make an investment in doubt into the fitness industry, which is of course super sad. We had like, I think our party was a little bit too crazy over those years, and now we have a little bit too much of a hangover. But I think it will, in the midterm, stabilize again, and more money will come into the industry because it just fundamentally makes a lot of sense. In my investor presentations, one of the slides that I always show is that the gym industry has outperformed GDP growth in every single year, with the exception of 2020, since 2000. So, like in every single year, the fitness industry grows faster than GDP. So, in every single year, fitness industry becomes a bigger part of the economy. And so that is now since 2000. And the drivers are, I would say, an increased health awareness, and like people want to focus more on longevity. There's like lots of little things that happen. Strong is the new skinny. You can starve yourself at home, but if you want to be strong, you just have to lift weights too. So also the aesthetics have a little bit changed. There's lots of things positive, but fundamentally, what I have learned is, I would say also the hard way, is you need to have a sound financial business model, right? So, like, and and part of it is also sometimes that you maybe choose, if you have a big vision, to approach it with like sequential is faster than in parallel, because if you approach something in sequentially, you can start, showing some success with something small, and then show these financials to investors and build on it. While if you build everything at once, you may not be great in anything, and also, your financials don't look so appealing. And so sometimes when entrepreneurs ask me for advice and they want to do this and this and this and that, I'm telling them, I'm not saying you shouldn't do these things. You should absolutely pursue your dreams. But what I recommend you is maybe sequentially approach these things, because this is how you can pick up investments over time on your journey. And of course, what is helpful is basically try to not lie to investors. So, for example, one of the things we pride ourselves at EGYM is that now for 7 consecutive years, including 2024, we have outperformed our budget. One exception was 2020. There was something surprising happening. But even in 2024, we achieved our budget. And so we're now going in next year into our 8th year where we try to hit our budget. And that gives, of course, investors trust that you don't show them like, this typical thing of, yeah, the last years were not so great, but if you invest now, tomorrow the hockey stick starts. It's just like oftentimes hard to believe. And so what I can recommend is, if you want to bet on the fitness industry, you make no mistake, because the fitness industry will be amazing. It's also, by the way, an industry, what I always say is, if you found a company, you need to be fine with the fact that you may never have a good financial outcome, or like, during COVID, there was a chance that I could just lose everything I've built for 12 years, but I would have not looked back with any regrets because I enjoy doing it. And so basically that's also a big plus for the fitness industry. But if you bet on the fitness industry, you bet on the future. If you like fitness, it gives you a lot of fun. And then kind of just build your business model over time, and then you will get the funding, because fundamentally you do something that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that, if I were to look back and whether it's talking to investors or partners or, you name it across the board, something that we try to just think, one of the best compliments that we can be paid is that somebody's saying to us, you always did the thing you said you were going to do. Every time we talk to you, you talked about, hey, this is what's on the roadmap, or this is what we're
Yeah.
planning, this is what we want to build, or this is the budget that we want to hit, and the forecast and all those things. And every time we came back and checked in, had a conversation, just caught up, or we were pitching somebody again, it's like, wow, you actually did the thing that you said you were going to do. And maybe you did it faster, and maybe you did it better, and maybe you even improved upon what you thought you could do. And yeah, that speaks volumes for an operator and for a business and just how they want to approach things. So super important and invaluable advice. One more thing before we get you out of here, and I appreciate you making time. I know you're traveling and I think headed to a conference and lots of different things going on, certainly. But I don't want to overlook the building on all the things we talked about and trends and focus, this idea of holistic health and going beyond the physical, and whether that's mental health or sleep or nutrition, so many different aspects. And I think a lot of kind of fitness operators are thinking, what do we integrate? How do we partner? How do we put these pieces together in a meaningful way? Because obviously people are certainly thinking about their health in that way and want different solutions. Do you have that kind of strategy nailed down, work in progress? Just how are you thinking about that kind of a moving target in many ways
Yeah.
as you think about like how to address this need?
Yeah, the main way how we think about this is indeed, um, how does these other elements like sleep play a role for gym users? So we're not trying to be now, that company that does things for non-gym users, because like that would kind of have us lose our focus. Our focus is our name, it's gym. But for the gym users, which is just, for example, I think 60 million Americans, like there we should think about as a company, how can we bring the holistic health together, and specifically via partnerships, right? So we also don't believe that we can be the best in everything. Um, and every time, for example, when I think about a new business line, um, I really ask myself, do I trust myself that I will be the best in the world in this? And there's nobody else who knows this better than me. And if that's not the case, I just want to partner. And I oftentimes feel like in most of the cases, I think it's impossible for me to be the best at this. So it's just, there has to be someone else. And we don't have a TAM problem, so we don't need to do these kind of things. And so, like, my ideal dream would be indeed like around mindfulness and sleep at some point, have the perfect partners that complement our ecosystem and just really use the data that we have and do something amazing with it, and complement the solution for our users.
In wrapping up, I usually, say something like, what should we look out for? What's next? What are you excited about? I think we've spent most of the conversation talking about those things, kind of what's next and what's been happening and where kind of EGYM is continuing to go. But in closing, is there anywhere that you would kind of point people? Is there any specific call to action you'd have? We talked a lot about partners. We talked a lot about operators. We talked about continuing to evolve the Wellpass. Kind of the floor is yours in terms of where you want to point them and if there's a specific call to action that you have.
So what I have learned is, and our global marketing director, Sean, really well, and he is absolutely amazing. But what we have never managed to deliver well, and he agrees with that, by the way, is that when I explain people what eGym is, and then once they tried our strength product for the first time, they would tell me like, "Hey, Philip, it's so much better than I expected." And in the meantime, it's not anymore. I don't consider it anymore as a compliment, because I'm like, damn it, why was I not able to explain what this is about? And so, what I can recommend to everyone is like, get your hands on our equipment and try it out. And I would love to hear maybe on Twitter or something what you think about it. But I promise you that when you hear about it and hear us talk about it, it's still less wonderful as an experience as if you actually do it.
Fantastic. We'll make sure to get the kind of website and direct people towards where they can find the locations and try the equipment. And we'll certainly be continuing to cover all the happenings as you build out the ecosystem and continue to bridge that path towards integrating healthcare and fitness. But super excited we got a chance to chat today and really exciting updates. So thank you for making time.
Joe, also huge compliment to you and your team and your brother. What you're doing is so needed in our industry. I'm your biggest fan, and thank you very much for having me.
Appreciate you, Philip. Thank you. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you got value from the conversation, please consider subscribing and sharing the podcast with a friend or colleague. It's a massive help. And if you want more content like this, including news and insights on the latest industry developments, subscribe to the Fit Insider newsletter at insider.fit.co. And one more thing, you can learn more about our recruiting and consulting services at fit.co. That's FITT.co. I'll see you here next week.